Which fans are more fickle, music fans or wrestling fans? Really?
Oh yeah, by far, wrestling fans.
And I'm sure you're hyper aware of this. Tyrus is such a sticking point for some people.
Really?
Yeah, it's shocking, right?
I've never heard this. This is new. This is news to me.
What's interesting to me is a lot of people that hate Tyrus, who think he's a real life heel, have never actually watched 1 second of him on Fox News and have no idea what any of his takes are on there. But there's like, he's there, I don't like him.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject because it's like, put it this way, if we were talking about Tyrus as a phenomenon, right? Here's a man who was Snoop's bodyguard, who made the transition from being a bodyguard to a famous music icon, to working in professional wrestling, getting over with the biggest company in the world, leaving and continuing. When I met him, he was working at TNA. We both were. And then I was there when he first went on a Gutfeld show, which was kind of like a lark. They tweeted something, and Gutfeld invited him on the show, and he took off.
Yeah, he's like, "I'll be there."
So I think with everything with Tyrus, you must always start with this. Here is a man who grew up in a very tough situation. Okay, he created his own opportunities in a world that we all admit doesn't necessarily give people like him the best opportunity. He fought his way through. He's been successful at everything he's ever touched, and now he's a best-selling author. So he's got 3 sort of bona fides under his name.
And he's doing these live shows, and making all kinds of money off of that too.
Yes, and his wife and he are putting those shows together, so he's almost kind of running that on their own.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, so let's say it's four successful venues he's operating in. He's 50 years old. He still has a lot of road to go, and I don't think the story is yet told on him. So let's talk about him in wrestling. He loves wrestling. He gets the business, and he's worked with some of the greatest minds in the history of the business, whether it's Dusty or Vince, right? So you start there. So when people try to bring in, let's call it the social political aspect of the world that we live in, which is very important, I'm not disregarding that. But when you try to make that something about how a wrestling product is supposed to be booked, that's where you lose me. So I'm supposed to weigh more a political consideration over this man's brand and who he is as a human being. I like to stand next to successful people. I mean, I have my own issues in life about wanting credit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in a band, but I like to tell people, by the way, I wrote all those songs, right? There's a distinguishing thing that needs to go on there sometimes. Like, by the way, I'm the guy who wrote those songs. So you can talk about the band all you want, but I'm the guy who wrote it, right? Yeah. So you got to give this man his respect. So if you can't give this man his respect and you take away who he is and what he's accomplished simply because of the network that he works for, because you don't like sort of the political aspect of it, that's where you lose me. Because that seems like a strange argument to make. So wait, stop. You're gonna in 2023, you're gonna look an African American man in the face and say, we're gonna disregard everything you've accomplished when we're all talking about how the deck is stacked against someone with your background. We're gonna strip all that away because we just don't like where you're coming from politically. That's a weird thing to me. Because I was told in the world that I was growing up in that you needed to give people opportunities and you needed to respect people who accomplished something, right?
And if anybody were to watch Tyrus on Fox, he's more often than not the voice of reason. And I feel like a lot of people just won't even give it a try.
We live in that world. I mean, I've stuck my foot in certain social and political issues through the years, and there are still people that will not let it go. And I like to think, look, if we're watching Chris's show, we're wrestling fans, right? The world. What happened with the rise? This is a weird point to make, but we're talking wrestling. Stone Cold was probably the first true Flair. You could argue maybe, but Stone Cold was a new version where the anti-hero heel was the babyface.
Yep.
And it kind of blurred the lines of Hulk, eat your Wheaties,
say your prayers, eat your vitamins.
Eat your vitamins.
Yeah.
Stone Cold was like, no, I'm going to punch you in the face and
give
drink
you the
a beer
middle
afterwards
finger,
and make fun of you, right?
Yeah.
So we live in a morally ambiguous world. And so when people try to divide the world into good team, bad team, it's really a discredit to the intellect of what we need as a country things tend to be a little bit more sophisticated than that.
So with everything you're saying, it sounds like it was a pretty easy decision for you to put the belt on Tyrus.
No, but I'm not trying to change your question. It wasn't an easy decision or a hard decision. It wouldn't be an easy or hard decision based on the calculus that most people would think. Does it make sense?
So you're just looking at it strictly from a wrestling standpoint, is what you're saying?
No, I'm looking at it from a holistic thing. I just value things at a different level.
So is the value there? And I totally think this is brilliant marketing. He brings the championship onto Fox.
By the way, he did that on his own. That was nothing I asked of him. And by the way, he also said, "Are you cool with this?" So that's somebody who behind the scenes is doing business for me the right way. Hey, are you cool with this? Yeah. I'm going to do this. By the way, he took heat at one point for doing it inside, and he's still wearing the belt. So he represents the company with pride. Again, I know him as a man, as a human being. He's not some guy on television. I know the person. I knew him before he started that gig. So when you ask me, was that an easy or hard decision? It's based on the whole calculus of the person that I know, the opportunity that we have together. I like what it says about our company, that anybody can walk through the door and have an opportunity at my company. And I'm not talking about diversity. I'm not talking about what you bring to the table in terms of brand value. I'm talking about if you walk through the door and you get over with me, I will give you the opportunity. And I will not listen to somebody in a corner who's never stepped in a wrestling ring tell me how to book my promotion, any less than I will listen to you scream from the back row and tell me what song to play on stage. You are talking to the wrong dude there. I am not that guy. I have benefited in this life from being who I am, which is a weirdo, OG goth guy over here. I was doing it long before anybody thought it was cool and there were t-shirts at Hot Topic, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there were times where people told me, you have to tone all that down. And I didn't. And now I'm having an even bigger run of success later in life because of who I am. So the NWA, by extension, as my company, represents that spirit, which is it's about getting over. It isn't about, hey, somebody might complain because of the thing. It's a brutal physical business. Look, we're in Vegas. You could argue that part of Vegas's renaissance in the last 20 years has a lot to do with the UFC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm not talking about Dana White's politics. I'm talking about who Dana White, the person, and I know Dana just a little bit. What does Dana always say? I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm running a fight game.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So by extension, I'm in the fight game. We're in the promotions game. So when I say stuff like, and it was, of course, not so much misquoted as misappropriated, if you don't like Tyrus, you don't like wrestling, that's not what I was saying. I would never tell a wrestling fan, if you don't like this one individual talent, you don't like wrestling. That's stupid.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is if you don't like who Tyrus is in the world in wrestling, then you're not really into wrestling. You're into some sort of weird patty cake game where you get to pick the toys you want to play with and make them fight like little kids. This is a brutal promotions game. I need the best athletes and the best personalities in the world to clash so that someone like you will want to pay to see it.